Orbital Redux is classic sci-fi adventure, but what makes it truly unique is the live experience. So you've seen live television on things like Saturday Night Live, but what you've never seen on television is science fiction adventure done live, where everything that you're watching on television is happening right then here on our spaceship, the Tsiolkovsky.
That was the voice of Steven Calcote, the show creator, director, and writer of Orbital Redux, the very first live sci-fi show. And I'm very excited to have Steven on this Wowza studio session.
Aubrey, thanks so much for having us. We are thrilled here after the adventure of the show to finally be able to share it.
I know. Well, we had you on Wowza Studio Sessions last year, and Butcher Bird Studios, which you work with, has been doing amazing things. Can you talk to us a little bit about Butcher Bird?
Absolutely. So Butcher Bird is a Los Angeles-based content studio that has become known in a fairly short time for making stories that use the cutting-edge technology available. We actually are story agnostic, but it just so happens that we've been challenged with doing really hard stories, and the answer for us was, well, we're going to use the latest technology to make some of these things happen. And last year we talked about our live National Geographic pilot.
Yes.
And this year we're talking about a live narrative sci-fi show, and that's all built on the shoulders of all the previous experience.
Definitely. So this show premiered on Project Alpha, which was a streaming site, and it was behind a paywall. It was the whole 9 yards, and it was called Orbital Redux. Can you talk to me a little bit about building the show, what the show became, and then how it's felt in the aftermath and where we're kind of headed in after this?
I would love to share this. Now, I have a terrible, terrible problem in that I talk about this stuff with great glee and incessance. So let me know if I go too deep into any detail.
Oh no, so I'll give you a bit of a heads up. So yesterday evening, we ended the show with two gentlemen from Flightline Films. So they do all of the videography, or a lot of the videography in the camera building for NASA.
Oh,
and then
my
I had
gosh.
ClearCom on the show earlier, who talked about building communications for private space and for NASA.
So get
and
your
now
geek
I have
on.
You talking about space. I think I'm supposed to go into space or something.
That's great. That's great. We'll get your space geek on, absolutely.
Perfect.
Well, I have a lot of ways that we can get into this, but let me start for those creators in the audience. And I have a thesis that I've been really working on recently, which is in a world of 500 plus scripted.
In a world.
Yes. Of 500 plus scripted series. This is scripted series now. If you're going to make something new, I think you really want to ask, how are you going to stand out? And for those of us who are creators who aren't studios or networks already, the answer can often be technology. And as we walk around the show floor here today, it is a candy store of future wonder. Before I was coming over to you, I just stopped by 3 virtual production booths that are integrated with Unreal Engine, and you can do live integrated sets with Unreal, right? You've seen this.
Yeah. Yep.
So for us, the last great frontier that we want to cross into is live VFX for our sci-fi show.
Wow.
Right? I'll come back to that, though. So we were challenged in pitching to Legendary to come up with something that would uniquely satisfy their fans. Nerdist is their big banner brand. That's a geek brand, and their audience demands great genre adventure, and they also want the real science, the exclusive scoop on why this is something that matches reality.
Yes.
Right? So we pitched something that Legendary was looking for. This is the art of pitching, right? We created a narrative show, Orbital Redux, that would be a live 8-episode sci-fi adventure, interactive, so it can involve their audience, and it would be an honest, no apologies adventure, as if you were tuning into your favorite episode of Star Trek or journeying into Star Wars. We wanted every frame, anything that people watched, to feel like it had been taken from their favorite sci-fi show. So that was the bar that we set. And then what we said is, because your audience demands the science as well, we're going to add in a pre and post show that features some of the greatest thinkers working today. So one of our science advisors is a wonderful astrophysicist named Dr. Erin McDonald. She made sure we got the science right. She made sure we got the science right from a feminist perspective as well. Because I will tell you, my great disability as a white male is I only have a white male perspective. And that's something I'm encouraging all of my colleagues who are also white males, is inclusion is not just about making sure that you check a diversity box. It's about building better stories. It's the right thing to do, but it makes everything better because you get more perspectives and it's a richer end product. So that was a quick aside of, here's my thought for today on inclusion. But coming back to the show, so here was the package. We would start with a star guest, like an astrophysicist. We would go right into an amazing adventure, and then we would come out with Yuri and Yasmin having done whatever crazy adventure, and they would walk off in costume right to our post-show, sit down with the astrophysicist and say, it's the year 2050, let's talk about what was real, let's talk about what could happen and what might not happen, but there's still a possibility. And it was this incredible journey between the real and the unreal that was perfect for Legendary fans.
That's amazing. Now, did the actors, Yuri and Yasmin, did they have any background in this type of rocket science, or are they big followers of sci-fi adventure, or was this new to them?
This is a great question. We did 6 months of research, training, and prep. And we worked with our actors to bring them up to speed. In fact, our set was so complex, it took a week of training for them to understand how to fly the set, because there were over 1,000 interactive switches. There was over a mile of wiring in the ship that was all interconnected in some way. So there was a level of complexity as actors for skill, but here's the key. We brought on science advisors and we gave the actors homework so that the jargon would become second nature. We also worked with their natural geek tendencies. Yaz is a whiz at math. So she actually writes out by memory the entire Tchaikovsky rocketry equation on the wall during one of the final episodes. And that equation, recommended to us by Dr. Aaron, is vital to them saving the ship. So that's using the natural actor skill. Then Yuri is one of the world's great sci-fi geek celebrities. He grew up on Doctor Who, which was the original live sci-fi back in the 50s because they didn't have recording technology. What we did to become a first is we added the interactive into it so that we would basically do a one-up, and that's part of the Redux, right? We're returning to a different time where everything was live, but we're putting it back through the lens of what we can do today, which might be as simple as where they had 3 cameras facing proscenium. Well, guess what? We're going to film it like cinema, so we're going to have everything from extreme close-ups to technocrane to Steadicam, and really give you what you would expect from a cinema experience. The end of the answer to the actor's relation to the science is they had to study a lot.
I can imagine, yeah.
But they're also improv actors and theater actors. So what that means is, because the show has massive choice-based changes where their characters are shifting and the plots are shifting based on audience interaction, they have to be ready for so much. They have to be ready for so many possibilities anyway, that folding in the science and folding in the tech is just one of the elements that they know they have to practice. Both of them started working with us 6 months before the show went live.
Wow.
And that's actually really interesting in that, because the set would be another character, we began rehearsing with them in the skeleton of the set so that we could continue to build it around them and make it truly their ship. I will make a mention to you, it's something we didn't do in season 1, but I think is a possibility for anybody doing live. And remember, I'm specifically giving this scripted live perspective. I contend that if you're going to jump into live, where you want it to be very current, you want to, as part of your live strategy, come up with a way to fill in the gaps between your weekly event-based television, which is exciting, by the way, because that used to be just SNL and sports and the latest Jesus Christ Superstar musical, right?
Yes.
What we're saying is, what if you brought appointment-based television back into adventure, genre, etc.? So in between the appointments, what do? Well, if your actors are working this hard already to be ready for anything and carry the show live, what if Yuri, as an astronaut, sits down and does a live two-way video chat back down to the planet? Well, how does he handle the science if somebody asks him a science question? Well, I put Dr. Aaron McDonald in an IFB in his ear, and then she can quietly be the secret voice in the back of the room, right? So we can actually solve with technology and continue the illusion of these characters and empower them. So that's the final part of the answer, is they can be as smart about the science as we want them to be in character if we bring in our experts, which, by the way, if they're already involved in the show, they want to be a part of it anyway.
And as an actor, if you've spent 6 months preparing something, you're going to want to be able to do it more than 1 hour a week as a live video.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, if you're looking at the actor perspective, this is one of the key questions, or this is one of the key answers to a question that we get a lot, is why live? To which I would say, well, why pre-recorded? That's me being a little bit cheeky. But here's the big answer for actors who are asked why live. Your decisions matter again. If I'm making a movie with actors, whether I want it or not, I'm going to have to do hundreds of takes throughout the process. Hopefully not in any one scene, but what it means is that 99% of the work that actors do go to waste. And as an actor, no matter how good you are, you cannot avoid knowing that. And there's some part of you that resists that. Flip now to live narrative. Everything you do as an actor matters. Every choice you make is part of the canonical final reality of this show. And it is both the most intense and most rewarding acting that our actors had ever done.
And you challenged them in a special way, too, because you brought interactivity into the show in how the audience was able to choose endings, correct?
That's right.
Can you talk to me about that?
So what we wanted to do was give audiences big and little choices. In the pre-show, through an online polling through Megaphone, they were able to select one of 3 key plot elements that would be entirely based on them. At the end of each show, there would be a new poll in the post-show that would be a big change. Now, those big changes we only wrote each week as possibilities because as choices piled up, because of exponential differentiation, we could only be so far in advance. So what were the choices like? In one episode, you got to decide whether, and you didn't know what the scene was going to be, but you got to decide up front, would Yuri, as Max, confront his boss or punk his boss? Now, this is a very different decision point. Each one of those would result in a run-in with the boss that would then have repercussions.
Yeah.
Another version of a before the show interaction where we were able to up the ante for the audience and up the dramatic irony because they knew something the actors didn't. For Yaz, she has to respond to a shipboard fire when the ship gets hit by debris, which was a big special effects live sequence with part of the wall blowing out and debris going, the whole ship shaking. She did not know which ship system would fail that the audience had chosen ahead of time.
Okay.
So as she's on the floor, spoiler alert, with Max bleeding and unconscious, she's got a gas mask on, the whole ship is going dee-doo, dee-doo, dee-doo. Everything's flashing around her, smoke-filled cabin, red light. She, as the actress, has to find out which system is going wrong, and then she has a specific solution based on one of 3 possibilities. So for her, the heart rate on that moment, she's in an astronaut-like situation live where she has to convincingly solve this real-life threat. And the audience loved it. The chat feed lit up because they know that she doesn't know. And this was part of the covenant with your live audience, especially in scripted. Finally, the sweet version of things. In the final episode, the audience was given the opportunity to name the child that Max and Mark, his husband, would have. Because one of the big payoffs at the end, and this was actually based on a series of choices, is that they would adopt. And so the audience, think about this. The audience has gone with us on the journey, who has actually done a campaign to make sure that we don't kill Max because it's not looking good. They now get to name one of the major characters in the show. And it was Bowie.
Aww. Which
is remarkably appropriate. That's what they voted on and they came up with in the chat. And so this is just 3 of the many choices made throughout the series. But I will tell you something. If you invite your audience as good citizens to become part of your show, and you are a good citizen in return, and you put their choices into play before them, you have made your fans authors of the experience. And they will show a devotion you have never seen before for scripted.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely amazing, and it just gets me excited for more. I know I keep saying this on the show, but like what lower latency is going to allow us to do and the relationships that it allows people to build, whether they be with fictional characters or with other like normal humans in the world. I think that's absolutely amazing.
I'll tell you, I think one of the next great frontiers in our watching experience we have moved ahead so fast on technology that we have left behind one of the most important elements of storytelling, which is the shared group experience. I think that what we saw in this first experiment in live sci-fi interactive is that audiences were thrilled to be a part of something. But what if we could have upped the ante on it, making it more of a watch party? How many people have Game of Thrones parties that they're going to? Why? Because you take a show that we all love, and now you get together and watch it, and all of a sudden it's that much better. I see my cousin hanging around out there. He actually brought up an interesting experience that Bandersnatch was experienced in a way that I had not appreciated by him and his roommates. So he has a kind of sitcom-like roommate arrangement where they all gather around and do things together. And I envy him. Whereas I was at home and I watched Bandersnatch alone. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. He revealed to me that he and his housemates were yelling, screaming about choices. And I thought, wow, what an incredible way to have seen Bandersnatch. And so I think one of the challenges to us in scripted narrative is to bring that watch party aspect back into it. And we got a little glimpse of it. I think that it's like anything else. You see things that start to work, and then you get excited about doing even more. It was like you were talking about this cool workout series you did where you had never seen a 360 of workout before. And you said, wait, I'm going to make that happen.
Yep.
And that's what's so cool to be a creator who's just now saying, I'm always going to work with the latest technology, because it allows you to solve problems you never knew you could solve.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of technology, before we go, I want to show everyone there's a picture of your control room, and it actually is one giant room that includes their set as well.
Right.
And I want to make sure everyone gets to see that. So this has not only your front bench and where you are, but it's got a second set behind you, and the main set, there we go, it's got some graphics on there for you. So the main set in front of the control room, and then behind it, the second lit area.
So we actually called this Mission Control because we had as many as 30 people operating the ship and all of the live integrated elements. And this is the big thing when you sign up for what we call live cinema, is that everything you would have solved in post, you now have to come up with a way to solve in real time. And even the way that we started the show, we hung a lantern on it, and we started filming from my Mission Control check-in. And I would say, to start with, and this is me on camera, I would say, I need a go, no-go from all stations. We are 30 seconds away. And live edit, go, no-go, go for edit, go DMX, go special effects, go alpha. I tell you, I get goosebumps again just thinking about it. And the audience loved it.
You're flying a plane.
The audience loved it. Yeah,
Yep.
That's what you're doing. So I think the moral of this story, and you can see my excitement just remembering this and sharing it with you, is that there is a way to take things up to 11 without apology, with live, and say, okay, you've already lit up the territory that you're doing in a lot of nonfiction, and me as a fiction filmmaker, I now say, okay, what can I learn from you? What can I do to challenge my scripted work and make that live? Because weirdly enough, we're going back in time 10,000 years, because that was the original entertainment, right?
Yes,
live.
Exactly.
And now we're saying, okay, now that all this technology is here, what can we do that we've never done before?
Definitely. Where live lives.
Where live lives.
It lives right here.
right now.
Right here, right now. Thank you so much, Steven.
Aubrey,
it's always a pleasure to get to talk to you.
Indeed.
Thank you, everyone, again, for watching Wowza Studio Sessions live from the floor of NAB. And we'll be back up in just a couple of minutes. See you then.